Okay, trying this again. Just a connection problem. I really don't like that that means like YouTube actually like resets and posts a completely different video. It might be the case with Facebook too. Um, anyway, so what I'm doing is working on Sugar Shack. I had pretty decent momentum yesterday working with these action tokens and trying to figure out what are some other ways that players could interact with buildings, with different buildings, to earn or spend action tokens in interesting ways. So, so what I ran across was a couple other was some options for buildings that have been a little bit problematic, and for different reasons. So Syrup Inc. What Syrup Inc. used to be is a place that you could drop off syrup, and that you could kind of control that building, and what that building would do is produce an income at the start of every turn. So the longer you controlled it, the more you earned over time. Okay, that's a great idea, but what it did was it it created more upkeep. So it added another step that you just kind of had to remember as a player. And there was already a key step that you have to remember as a player, and I didn't want to add more of those. The key step was the biggest, the most important was advancing your sap through the evaporator. That's the one step that everybody just kind of had to remember, and even that one, that super crucial one to make progress, to evaporate the syrup, the sap into syrup. That was not easy to remember all the time, and that's the most important. That's the most important process in the whole game. That's where everything. That's where all of your earning potential comes from. Is in producing maple syrup. So if you had to remember that, but then also remember to check for income, there are games that make you do that, and they do fine. I mean, I'm thinking of um, Dice Throne usually only has one upkeep, kind of thing. But I'm sure Magic has plenty of upkeep stuff that you just kind of have to remember, and millions of people love that game. But the point is, I didn't want to put that on players. I don't like multiple upkeep steps that you just kind of have to know about or remember. This would be especially a problem since it's not like you always get that thing. If somebody else, if the other player goes to Syrup Inc., they take over Syrup Inc., then you don't have to check for income anymore. So you get out of the habit of checking for it, and then you go back to Syrup Inc., and then now all of a sudden you have to remember again to check. So anyway, I like discarding that upkeep step. And instead, what I thought Syrup Inc. could be is a way to convert money into action tokens. And so what I have here are three options for spending money. One, the cheapest one, gives you an action token into your action pool. Action token pool for next turn. That's what this means without the flash symbol. If you spend more money, then you get those tokens immediately. So this effectively turns into gaining an extra token, right? Spending 6 money, because you had to spend one to get here. You had to spend a token to activate the building. This lets you invest, it's a small investment into the future, into your next turn. This one is, these two are, they're just all about, getting the value you need right now. and it'll cost you. But it was nice to think of a way to convert money into action tokens. That's the only building that does that right now. Okay, the bank. The bank was cool. The bank evolved. So the main interaction at the bank is to get a loan and to pay off a loan. So that's fine as an idea. It's a way to jumpstart your economy, and I think that's important. It's a way you could get an upgrade really quickly and get going, so that hopefully your engine is producing enough money before the end of the game to pay off the loan and still be competitive. That's the kind of cool. There's like a curve, right? Well, I was talking about curves, or we were playing with a curve with QE, the game QE. That's the auction game that we had a lot of fun with last weekend. Okay, but anyway, the loan is fine as a concept. The problem is that once you get a loan, you have no reason to go back to that bank until you're ready to pay off the loan. So it created a dead spot right in the middle of town for most of the game. Yeah, because at some point it's like I don't need a loan. I've gone long enough without it, so you might never ever go to the bank. And to me, that's not that cool. If there's a dead spot for you the whole game, that means there's a problem. I band-aided this problem by flipping the bank in the third round, and it became the town festival, and that I didn't mind. I thought the town festival was okay, but the festival, if you remember from yesterday, I also have to completely like reimagine or just cut, because the festival was all about it was the concept of being somewhere. You had to be here at the festival, and if you dropped off syrup, then you could interact as if your pawn was in any other town location. You could interact with that town location. So that's like a completely different model of the game. That's before the action tokens. So not only was the bank problematic in that it would become a dead spot, but now even the thing that kind of helped to fix it from being a dead spot, fix it when it was a dead spot, that thing is now, the town festival is now irrelevant. It doesn't work anymore. Okay, so I thought, what about another way to invest? And I thought I played the latest Machikoro, Bright Lights and something. And there's a card in there that at the end of your turn you can put one money on it, and then in the future, if you roll that card, if you activate that card, you get that amount of money for every player or something. It could be huge if you've invested a lot. Anyway, that reminded me that it could be cool to find a way to like stow action tokens on a card and then take an income from those tokens. Well, now, this was my initial idea. That if you go to tier 2, so you spend 2 action tokens, and then you drop an action token on this card, right? I'm blue. I show up at the bank. I deposit. I deposit an action token. When I come to the bank next time, this is the big question. Should I be able to just place action tokens on the bank like the whole game, and slowly the pile builds up, and every time I go back, what if activating the bank is either dropping off a token or taking an income? Okay, that slows it down. Definitely. Because what I was thinking, one option is this one, where you go to the bank. Your first trip to the bank is a deposit. Cool. Then any later trip to the bank, it could either be a deposit or a withdrawal. So, So it feels like the options to me are something like either the tokens stay on the card or you remove a token and then it comes back bigger. I actually prefer that. I think I prefer that. So I'm going to make that change right now. Okay, so it would actually be like this. It would be 1. Oops. Okay, it would be this. Or you know what? Maybe I don't need this at all. It's either, oops, actually I kind of do, I need this. I'll do that. So it's this. Either deposit or, no, let's use the same size. Or, there's a reason to have another one of these, I guess. Or do this to get money, right? And you could probably do, I mean, it would be any number, right? Like there's no reason that this, now I can make these bigger, definitely. Let me move these down here. So you can either do that or, oh, wait. I don't know if I need these symbols anymore. Let me just figure this out. Okay, rearrange these a little bit. So you're either depositing or withdrawing. I like this idea of withdrawing. I mean, it just seems like a fun pair, right? It's like interest at the bank, which I think is a intuitive, nice idea. You earn some interest off your money. How much money, though? It probably shouldn't be insane. The other thing is that the way that I'm thinking about it right now, it doesn't really, the interest wouldn't like compound. I could still do it like this. Actually, I could still, wait a minute. I can still do this. Hang on. Because like I said, by making it either deposit or this is actually cool. I think I like this better. Right? So either you place a token or you check for how many tokens are there, and this also means adding to the pile of action tokens. I'm not sure I love that. Okay, now that I've made a little progress here, now is the scary part. Because I had this idea yesterday. Anyway, yeah, okay. I like the bank. I had the idea. This is the uh-oh right here. So the uh-oh was, I just had another fleeting thought, a premonition. This seemed like a big deal to me. That's why I put this more ecstatic language. What if the action tokens are the syrup you produce? Oh no, this sounds cool, but it would mean rebuilding the game from the ground up. So that did not sound awesome to me. But the question is, would it be worth it? That's the big question. It's always the big question with this kind of junk. When these ideas come by. So I don't love this possibility. So I think what would happen is that these probably need to be bigger actually. Yeah. So what would happen is that I'd have to reevaluate how syrup production works, how you could sort of guarantee that you'd have, how you could guarantee that you would have syrup every turn, because otherwise you couldn't take any actions. Or that would be the case of having a Sugar Shack turn versus a town turn. That doesn't sound that cool to me. Let's group these and center these. I mean, imagine throughout the game, like you came here and you're dropping off tokens. I like this. This seems dangerous. It seems really risky to go for the bank. But like if you spend enough time going for the bank, then you could be getting these massive payouts by the end of the game. I think that'd be awesome. So imagine that, timing that like perfectly. Okay. It might even be that 2 is not enough. Like 2 money. I love this. I love the simplicity of this iconography though. Like this, I don't really need that anymore because the hope is that players will understand that that's what this means, right? I also don't need this to be so big. Does that need to be so big? I don't know. I kind of like it when stuff like kind of sits outside of the frame. I know there's some magic cards. Like that's kind of what makes them special, is that they sit outside of the frame. Choose any two. I wonder why I did this with the corners. This is 3. Let's make it a 3. Oh. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. That must be different. Number of sides? Corner rounding, what's going on here? The other one was 14. Do I want 14 though? What is this? Corner rounding 3. Yeah. I don't know what shape this is. So you could take 3 money or an action token. I feel like I still don't have a clear idea of how strong these action tokens are. And money, I don't know. I really don't know yet what this economy is going to be like. No idea. Right? I really, really like how simple this is starting to look. I don't love this busyness here, is not exciting to me. I think I could do this with, I could show these with icons, definitely. There's no debt anymore. So that's nice. I have to say, my guess is that upgrades in the grant office are going to be the most difficult thing here. Barrels. There's still a reason to have barrels. I love how clean this looks. I really, really do. This production, I don't know how to... So right now this is cubes, action tokens. You know, if I was just thinking about what if I went this way? What if action tokens were syrup itself? You'd have to start with more syrup, I think. Because it doesn't make any sense that action tokens, like that you put action tokens in a bank and you get money out of the bank anyway. That doesn't make any thematic sense. It's just one way of converting tokens into money. But what if these were all, what if this was all cubes? Oops. So this works with cubes, that's fine. Hmm. Tagline syrup is life. Because it could be that you need to spend syrup to run the syrup situation. Oh man. Hmm. Isn't it crazy how much this game has changed? When did I start this game? I'm gonna see if I have some early notes here. Last year, November. Okay. So we're coming up on a year of working on this. That's insane. Yeah, like 9 months working on this. That's cool though. You know, one thing, there's a little, I don't know what it is, almost a little prickle. There's something like, you know, when somebody says, because they'll say this regularly on Board Game Design Lab in the Facebook group. I've been working on this game for 5 years now. The problem is that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it seems like it should. It really seems like it should, but a game can be bad for 5 years. That's the thing. Like, just because you work on something doesn't mean it's getting any better, right? It doesn't mean it's not fundamentally broken. So it's a weird flex to say, oh, this game has been, you know, in the process for 7 years. It's kind of like an instrument. If you play an instrument, but you practice the same way and you do the exact same thing for 10 years, you can be playing for 10 years. You can be practicing for 10 years, but not getting anywhere. You can totally be doing that. The same is very, very true with games. You can work on something for a long time, but it can still be terrible after a long time. So that's a little bit tricky. Anyway, it is close to a year, and it's not consistent work that I haven't spent um, every leftover minute on this game, but I have put significant work into it. In fact, let's examine. This is where it started. This is when it was worker placement, and it was really about just making syrup. That's how it started. And then I think so I knew that it was abstract, it was simple. I knew it was about getting to the market, right? Um, and so it was it was a two-player game that was all about efficiency and trying to get to these markets to claim spots in the market first. So that was cool. I made a sell sheet. I actually pitched. I pitched to it's like a little a micro euro. I think I've called it a mini euro. Anyway, I did pitch this to Gallons Games, and it didn't get anywhere. But this is when I started expanding into other buildings. This was the tug of war. In the Flapjack House, it was the tug of war. You can see the process also started changing. Okay, this is when I really, really simplified and abstracted the process of moving the cubes around, the syrup cubes. Or the sap that became syrup. Did the same thing, simplified the Flapjack House. Just kept going, started coming up with more things like upgrades. So here, what's the most significant thing? Yeah, if I added the upgrades. Were there more? There are more buildings now, and this was in February, late February. We had an in-person playtest. We had something in January, I think. So here's the road and the worker placement on the road. New buildings, new concepts. Lots of alternatives, like the idea of kind of randomizing town. Lots going on. Nearby and far became a concept. The RO machine. After I tested with Shem from Garfield Games, he mentioned something like building a choice into most action spaces. Excuse me. And now this was settling in here. This iteration felt pretty good, having town. And this is where you would start taking actions into town, like stepping up into town and activating each tier. Felt good about that. More upgrades. Okay, we're finally getting closer to its current iteration. This summer I was able to print it out, and we played it, and it really didn't get anywhere. Adding adding the mayor's favorite cards really felt like a big deal. Because even though there were some buildings that didn't didn't seem like useful to activate, at least the mayor's favorite card could come out and you might have a reason to go there. Also, if town wasn't super randomized, the mayor's favorite cards created some pressures that were randomized. They just show up at the different buildings. This was a big deal, coming up with another endgame objective or a timer, a trigger. Okay, we're getting close to, yeah. So it has been cool to see it, to watch the game change over months and months. And you can see how even something starting so simple has really taken a lot of time and energy to develop. Okay, so what would it look like if... Yeah, I think I have some nerve irritation. I think that's where the sneezing is coming from. I can like feel it in my neck. I didn't sleep super well. I think I slept around 10:30, woke up at 4:30, slept again until like 5 something, 5:15 maybe. 5:30, and then got up after that. So it might be a bit of a tough day at school, but glad to get out there and be making some money. Oh, that reminds me, I need to text my friend and say that I got a sub job and I won't be able to help with a little project today. Yeah, it's kind of tough to feel some pressure, financially to make sure that I get rent sorted out. It does change a little how I interact with people and the kind of expectations I have. So like my friend understood that he was offering me some money to help him with a project, but at the same time he also asked like, well, so what? Because I told him I might take a sub job, and he said, well, how much is a sub job worth? Because I think in his mind he might be willing to match it just to make sure that he could get this thing done, and it will be inconvenient for him, and I don't feel great about that. But like a day at school is like 4 times what it, because it only took a little time to help him last time, so it was actually cool. Just go do the little thing and make a little money, just because I was helping him out and he was generous about that. But here, I mean, I'm going to school for the day, and then it's a full day, so it's not as convenient as just go work for an hour and a half. But yeah, it's like 4 times what I would make for helping him out. So anyway, shifting priorities a little bit. Okay, so still the question is, in my last 20 minutes or so, what if, how could I actually set this up to work on it? So, if I had syrup, right, what if money runs the Sugar Shack? Oh, wait. Oh, what if money runs the Sugar Shack and syrup runs everything in town? Yikes. Yikes. What if money runs the Sugar Shack? The Sugar Shack and syrup runs town actions. Oh, well. So if, for example, wow, because now you're getting maybe we're wandering into the weeds here because each of these might have a price. So first off, the candy stand, you know what? I'm just gonna make a new set of these. Not what I was hoping to do today, but let's see what happens. Just gonna make a completely new pair of files. Okay, what to call this? Landscape. Landscape. I don't know what to call this iteration. Just 828. I'll just call it syrup. Okay. So this, I don't know. This is very disruptive. Thanks, Francisco. Appreciate you. It is tricky to come back. So because I'm streaming to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, it'd be nice to have like the surface area. Yeah, it'd be nice to have the surface area to just have everything open. Can you imagine that? I would love that. Just have like a really tall or massive screen. Anyway, hope you're doing well, Francisco. What's on your schedule today? What yeah, what does this do? So there's a plugin actually. There's a free plugin on OBS. It's called, here I can screenshot it, I think, and send it to you. Actually, I might be able to find the actually, let me see if it's still here. No, it's AI, what, item. Yeah, OBS. No. Multi-stream. Let's see if it's here. Download multi for free. I honestly don't think there's any paid version of this. So I actually don't know what their main, I don't know what their income, like what does this do? Automate and simplify those tedious parts of your stream, create new experiences for your viewers. Built-in UI. So I don't know what their app does, but their multi-stream is free. So it's literally just a plugin that that allows you to just like toggle on and off these different oh, okay. So what do you use then? I don't know what you would have changed. Like, did you stop multi-streaming, or are you streaming using some other tools? I remember from the very beginning being very impressed by the aesthetic of your stream. Oh, okay. I don't actually know Rumble Studio, but it seems like it would be a really nice paid service. Multi-stream with high quality. Okay. Caller queue? Okay. I don't know what RTMP means. Huh, okay. That's okay. I have another, what, 13 minutes? Well, you know, if this continues to work well for me, it really is an issue of the quality of my connection. I actually don't mind just some real basic, rudimentary tools here. I mean, it would be nice to upgrade at some point if this, you know, if I can really, I guess when I really decide to, you know, be, what is this? Be more than, or do more than just stream what I'm working on anyway. I'm not sure what that would look like for me, like what tools I would head into or what priorities I would have. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, cool. Didn't mean to sidetrack. No, it's actually good to have a little dialogue, think through some other stuff. So my question here in my last 10-ish minutes is, what if money runs the Sugar Shack and syrup runs town actions? Again, this is very, very disruptive, but that's cool. It's kind of fun to mess with other possibilities here. Because is it as simple as just adding a cost to every Sugar Shack action? Or is there one general, like, if, yeah, okay. So you could spend, I don't want to assign, I wouldn't want to have like a menu, I think. That doesn't sound that cool to me. So, you know, if you're doing a holding, if you're gathering sap, does that cost some amount of money, some specific amount of money? Or every action in here costs money? Let's just assume for right now that the candy stand, if it's going to cost the money, Yeah, something's wrong here. So, because if there's no limit on, like, what does selling candy do, right? It just gains me money. Well, it costs money to run the Sugar Shack now in this variation. So, um, so I'm not going to charge somebody to make money. I'm not going to charge money to make money. So, if this is gone, what I don't want to do is just create a situation. Yeah, so currently there are 3 resources in the game. One of them is money, and that's also victory points. Another resource is syrup. So those are the cubes that you would distribute around town to earn money. And then what I added recently was action tokens. So action tokens, instead of travel, the game used to be about travel. So currently there are three currencies. So I don't have a good example of what travel used to look like. I guess it's like this. You used to travel up into town, and so instead of moving pawns up into town, what I'm testing instead is if I start my turn with, let's say, 3 action tokens, then it costs me 1 token to activate any building in tier 1. It costs me 2 tokens to activate any building in tier 2, etc. So rather than getting to take all those steps just because I have a vehicle, the previous system was your car, the starting vehicle, would allow you to take 3 steps into town. So you just automatically had 3 steps so you could activate 3 buildings. So what I'm trying right now is having a pool of tokens that you have to spend to activate. So there's no longer this like worker placement and movement thing happening. It's just like if you wanted to go to the bank, you just have to spend the amount of tokens you need to go to the bank. So anyway, so that's a summary of the 3 resources right now. So I'd love to hear if you had some thought about adding another one. Yeah, I'm curious what you're thinking. What I was just gonna do, what I was just thinking through was killing the action tokens, replacing them with syrup in general. So rather than having 3, cutting it back down to 2, but then, because it's almost like, why have action tokens? Why think of them as action tokens when you have cubes sitting here on this card that could also be spent? I guess what is tricky now is how to think about what does it take to activate a building, and then what are you interacting with that building. So here, for example, this is a tier 2 building, so it would cost 2 action tokens to get there, right? To essentially travel to that building, to that location. So it cost me 2 to get there. Okay. So it depends on what reputation could be spent for, right? Unless you're thinking reputation would be victory points now, which is totally possible. Or it could be like, I mean, yeah, we can imagine a few different things, but if it could be one of those games where you're climbing up on 2 tracks and then the end of the game happens when they cross. I like that, the Ark Nova kind of thing. Or they, yeah. Oh, yikes. That's interesting. Spend reputation to sabotage. Now that isn't necessarily the spirit I was going for in this game, but it is competitive. Like it is supposed to be, I don't know if it's supposed to be cutthroat, but it is supposed to be like you're racing to donate money to the church and or to to get your syrup out there. So it is edgy and competitive. Currently right now there's no negative player interaction. So it's interesting thinking about that. Let me write it down. What about a reputation track? What's possible with another currency? Is it like Arc Nova, climbing 2 tracks? Can you spend reputation to sabotage? So it's not really a direction I would expect to go, but I think because I'm kind of at this yeah, I think you're right. Like there are lots of cool ways to imagine, like once you hit a certain level or tier. This showed up in 11, the game 11 that I played on Tuesday. um, you could have up to 4 staff. Once you had 5 staff, now suddenly you were in another tier, and you had to spend more money to maintain those staff. So there could be something like that. I wouldn't mind experimenting with it. Because let's say I did somehow figure out how to ditch action tokens. Because I don't love the abstraction of action tokens. I don't like, that's not sexy to me. Like that's kind of a cheap way of limiting what players can do, right? Um, if I could lop them off and figure out how to concentrate just on spending syrup cubes in town, there could be this other feature you're managing. This other track that you're managing that would affect the strength of those actions. So I think this is cool. I think there's something here. It is a fundamental redirection, which I don't mind. Oh, cool. Anne is here. So I don't mind that at all. It's a little hard for me sometimes to have the capacity to process super big changes all at once, but I like this little brainstorming sesh. Okay, I'll have to transition away pretty soon. So if money, where was it? So let's say for now the candy stand is gone. Let's just say for now. I like how much space that gives us. I think that's good news. And then let's say this is actually a menu and there are different prices. I don't 100% love this idea, but maybe it works. Right, maybe it works. So I'm just going to extend these. Okay. Add a little Yeah, I had this same feeling. Not too. Let's see. It seems like turning something produced into the action source might not feel thematic. Well, I actually agree with this. Yeah, I actually agree with this, and I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, I think at some point it's just like become comfortable with this level of abstraction. You just kind of have to. That was also an issue with 11s. Like the way that games resolved in 11, it doesn't make any thematic sense. At least not in my mind. But at some point, it's just like, well, okay, we have to represent soccer somehow, um, and this seems to work. It seems fun or whatever. And I think that could be what action tokens do. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, lots of possibilities here. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm texting Anne here a little bit, or messaging Anne a little bit. We can have a look at that. But Francisco, I'd love to pick your brain too, kind of brainstorm at some point. But I think that's it for me for today. I gotta head out to school. Thanks for joining, and happy gaming, and I'll see you soon. Yeah, I'm heading out to. Yeah, cool. All right, I'll see ya.